I'm live. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody's doing great. Can you tell I'm smiling? I'm smiling. I'm like grinning from ear to ear just because I'm a happy camper. Lots of good things are happening in the Grays ecosystem. I got to get ready for this call. Excuse me for a second. Guess I got to get off my butt and fix this. Sometimes I go live. I usually do probably and just kind of wing it. I'm also a little early today for a change, which is wonderful. Yeah, hopefully my enthusiasm comes through. I can't, not at liberty to share everything, but everybody will find out in due time. And yeah, I think everybody will be happy. Backwards Hat Dad, good evening. It's been a while since I've seen you. It is so warm in my office, guys. It's beginning to be summertime, and this wall faces the sun. The ceiling faces the sun, and that wall faces the sun. So I'm boxed in, and 3 sides of my 6 sides are facing the sun. Yeah, man. Shaq O'Neal, how many X's is it to 15 cents? That's what I want to know. 0.15 divided by 2.8, maybe? Are we at 2.8? Is that 535 X's? Easy peasy.
Pretty good. Sitting in a gas station, eating a hot dog, trying to get to my next appointment. I just wanted to jump in and say hi.
Oh. Yeah, thanks for coming in and saying hi. Hot dog sounds good.
Today looked like a good day for a buy and burn. If that's happening, I don't know.
We are going to be doing a pretty fun thing, or maybe not fun, but interesting. For the month of May, we're going to be doing a bunch of buy and burns, which we're coming pretty close to. And we're going to just be tracking the amount of percentage that pTGC we're buying and burning daily and throughout the month. And also tracking pTGCs, or not pTGC. We're going to be tracking pTGCs, and then we're also going to be tracking PLSX, how much they're buying and burning daily and throughout the month, also in both dollar terms and percentage of supply terms as well. I don't think I'm going to track excluding the OA because those numbers are not, or including the OA are not that interesting, but excluding the OA with PLSX, the numbers are a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to kind of turn on the buy and burn throughout the month of May and kind of see how we compare against pretty much the biggest decks on PulseChain's buy and burn.
Is it more advantageous to do a buy and burn right now or add to the LPs?
There's extreme pros to both, right? The fact that pTGC is so cheap, but then you also need to consider the PLS that we're using to do that buy and burn is also very cheap. Also, pairing at the bottom makes a lot of sense. I personally think we've spent a very long time really bolstering up those LPs to make sure that we have a good portion of LP with those assets for when PulseChain does move. You know, we have a large lump sum of them. Pro and con, PulseChain has been at low levels for quite a long time, so we definitely got more than enough time than we were anticipating to really build up that arsenal. So, you know, we kind of are thinking now to not give up on adding LP. We'll probably add LP for the rest of ever, right? But to put a little bit more emphasis on the buy and burn and see how that, you know, helps the system for a month.
Really just here to listen today. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the nice thing about the DAO is it's ever filling up. So if the buy and burns go well and it seems to do the system good for a month, and we maybe keep at that. But if we feel need to go back to LP providing after this month, we'll just go back to that. That's the nice thing about having a treasury that's just auto filling back up behind you is, in a way, it never drains dry. Sometimes it's slower filling than others.
Zan, you're a robot right now.
You guys can't hear me, or
I can hear you.
Worse.
I
can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good.
I think that's better now.
okay. But yeah, I was just saying the nice thing about, how our treasury works is even though we're using funds out of it, it's also constantly filling back up. Sometimes filling up faster than we can even spend them. Sometimes filling up a little bit slower, but then we just wait a time period for it to fill up a little more and we have more funds to access and adjust or grow or, pivot, whatever need fit we see for the ecosystem as a community.
Thank you. I did have one other question I was researching I couldn't figure out and I don't know if you guys, it's not pTGC related, but it's PulseChain related. The upgrades that Ethereum's rolling out. Has anyone heard when PulseChain is going to get those?
I haven't heard anything. I don't know if PulseChain will even take every single one of Ethereum's upgrades. I would assume this one is a very major one that if they want to keep improving alongside Ethereum, they need to make the serious adjustments alongside Ethereum. So I don't know how long it would take for us to get that improvement, but it's definitely one of the big pros of being a fork of Ethereum is that we get all the upgrades that Ethereum gets. And you can imagine how much money Ethereum spends on these upgrades to make them happen, to brainstorm, to figure them out, to code them. And we technically get them with no overhead costs, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But I was thinking to myself, we couldn't skip one upgrade to go to the next one. You'd have to have the previous upgrades to get the newest one, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would think with the major upgrades, I'm sure there could be minor tweaks here or there that we wouldn't have to implement, but the major things I would assume would need to happen if we wanted to keep following the upgrades as time goes on. The thing with the upgrade, I personally like a lot of the upgrades. I think was with swapping and stuff like that I read. I think even on our end for PulseChain, getting a wallet that's native to PulseChain or operates well with PulseChain like Rabby used to would improve PulseChain's experience by a ton more, right? I think the reason they're doing this improvement to ETH is to make it have a better ease experience. So you're not having to confirm and doing this and that. That improvement on PulseChain's side, I think will be pretty minor considering a lot of our struggles, I think, on swaps and sends are more wallet related, but hopefully they both come in this next year, a new native wallet and these upgrades Ethereum are getting to just make the overall experience of PulseChain a lot smoother.
How's it going, Zan?
It's going.
Right on.
Another day.
Yeah. I noticed that PulseChain it's still up 14% from the Friday before the SEC news. And it was pointed out to me today that Friday, the reason we started pump is because everybody knew that the SEC had to have their input into legal system, whatever, by that Friday. So we actually started a pump on that Friday, and we're still up 14% from that date.
Yeah, I think we do need to hold this here, right? We don't want to go really much lower than here, because if we can hold this, I think that can confirm that, we are starting to move upwards and we're creating that uptrend from the bottom. But if we don't hold this here and we start heading back down to those low levels, I would say that's a little concerning.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
Not really concerning on the grand scheme of things, right? Like the chain's running great, but market wise and, obviously wanting price to go up, I'd say we want to bounce from here and start making our way up a little bit more, not heading back in the opposite direction.
Yes. I imagine it'll happen in the next week at some point in the next 2 weeks. I think we'll, just from my gut is like telling me, I think we'll start moving back up, and I hope also.
If ETH bounces even more than it has, that will do it, right? Like the market's all tied, so we're more just waiting for the market to do a big push. And I think if the market does a big push, I think PulseChain will do a big push.
Yeah.
Market goes the other direction, we're probably going the other direction.
Yeah.
Like looking at the S&P right now, today was actually a good day, and we're breaking some kind of a trend level. So we'll see by the end of the week.
Nice.
Just remember, if Ethereum doesn't move, we don't move. So
yeah, I haven't looked at Ethereum today. Is Ethereum flat, up, down?
Flat.
What? Flat.
It's being a little girl right now. It needs to start moving.
Well, flat's better than down. What about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is up about 0.03%. Ethereum is up 0.06% last 24 hours.
Yeah. Ethereum has moved like 3% in the last 5 days.
Yeah, that might just be why we're kind of heading down a little bit right now. Just Ethereum not doing as big of a move as people are projecting, and obviously people considering us a form of leverage on top of Ethereum. So maybe they were hoping for a heavy bounce, and when they weren't getting it, some people might be trading that. Nice thing about our system is as markets move up and down, we're making revenue, we're buying and burning, we're getting LP, we're getting APY, so it really don't matter.
Yeah. I mean, we earn more tokens at these low price levels too with each transaction than we do, when price is higher, we earn more tokens. And then when price goes higher, those tokens are worth more.
Yep. Definitely prefer the volatility though, right? Like seeing Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of flat, that in turn kind of makes everything a little flat. So some volatile shifts upwards or downwards are ideal for our system, especially if some tokens are going one way and other tokens are going the other way. That's usually what's best for our system.
Yeah.
Is contradicting movements within the web is the most value generation usually for us. Usually that's like an alt token, a more speculative token, maybe moving up and then the market moving down, or the market moving up and the speculative token moving down.
Okay.
RH tickers tend to move for the most part together.
I had this question the other day. Why, I understand why we pay the fee for transferring pTGC from one wallet to another. It's to avoid people misusing the DAO, like voting multiple times on a DAO proposal, for example, because you got to pay the transfer fee to move your pTGC from one wallet to another, so you can have a bigger, weightier vote. But nobody's going to do that if they got to pay the fee. So I got that. But why do we have to pay the 6% fee for UFO? Remind me.
So it's not only the fact that people can't manipulate the DAO. That is one of the reasons. The other main reason is a lot of times on Ethereum, and there is other ways to like code this stuff in, but how we found to code this stuff in was to ensure that the fee was on every single LP pair. We make the fee on every single transaction, right? So on Ethereum, what they were doing for a little bit in BNB is they didn't want the fee on every transaction. So what they were doing was they were calling the fee on specific liquidity pools, because on other chains, it was never a thing to pair with this and then that and then this. And then, hey, 2 years from now, we're going to add LP with this random pair and then that random pair, to where our system is ever growing, right? There's going to be ever new things coming out and new things to pair with. Like 2 years from now, PulseChain is going to be a completely different environment than it looks like today. I recently posted this picture of Dubai like from 10 years ago, and then Dubai today, and I wrote like PulseChain on it, right? Like what Dubai looked like 10 years ago is completely different than what Dubai was 10 years, or what it is today is different than what it was 10 years ago. New factories, new stores, new buildings, new restaurants, hotels, etc. So we don't know what things will be here in 10 years. It could just be an RH ticker chain. Maybe memes have never thrived, but maybe memes take over and thrive on this chain, and we want to do a couple other LP pairs. Well, the fee on transaction ultimately for our system makes it to where we can pair with any token that ever comes out in existence, and that fee on transaction will always be there, making sure that the market maker bots to do that transaction is always going to pay that fee. Because we don't want the market makers trading other pairs fee with us.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let me summarize what you just said. The reason for the fees, that even just the transfer fee from one wallet to another for both pTGC and UFO is also so that the market makers would work and pay the fee.
Yeah, so it's a way to ensure that every single LP pool that exists will always have the fee, right? There's other ways to go about this. Like you could just put the fee on every single LP pool that you create by writing on the contract, like, hey, include this pair. Hey, include this pair. Hey, include this pair. But, you know, due to, for example, pTGC is renounced, we don't want to just add in every pair that we add into the system infinitely. So we just make every transaction have the fee. So literally you can make any pair ever and it will have that fee.
Got it. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah, we even saw in the early days when pTGC started doing this and people started to mimic it, they were still using, like, for an example, on Ethereum, for a while they were saying, hey, we're going to just do a fee on swap with this pair, and then they can send free of charge, right? But it was fine on Ethereum or BNB because they weren't creating liquidity webs. They would only have one or two liquidity pools, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But we saw people, when they started trying to mimic us, they actually didn't have the fee on every transaction, so they're creating the webs, but a lot of the pairs never had the fees, so the market makers were able to interact with those pairs feeless. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that defeats that purpose then.
Exactly. That's what happened. It defeated the purpose, but yeah, there's multiple reasons. Those are two of the big ones, right? We don't want people to be able to manipulate the DAO, so people can't hop from wallet to wallet with their tokens and vote multiple times or make multiple proposals, etc. Because very, very quick, you'd eat up a good portion of your supply trying to play that game. And then the other reason is we wanted to ensure any transaction moving forward, which any LP pool moving forward, has the fee, because the fee is what pays the system and makes the system grow.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
should we go over some numbers or maybe like talk about the last like 30 days? What's happened with pTGC? Good April overview.
You mean like the one that I normally do at the end of the month?
Yeah, I'm just curious how much everything the last 30 days in April happened on or with pTGC and UFO.
That's a great question. I'm glad you're on top of it, Coach. You're even ahead of the game. Month ain't closed out yet. I can have that ready by like all of it, like ready by Saturday. You know what I mean? Like the whole month.
Well, I was just gonna say, just bring it up on or live burns or pTGC.
Oh,
Go to the premiere thing and then just look at all the numbers in terms of the last like 30 days. So if I had to bring it up,
yeah, go for it, man. Do you mean live burns or look into pTGC?
the live burns, the look into pTGC website.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just gonna say for your audience, pull that measurement up so people can see it.
On look into on the dashboard.
No, live burns.
All right.
And then let's just scroll down to the pTGC fee allocations the last 30 days, and everybody can obviously see that there's like $406,600 that were like
Real quick, just for the confusion, I think Live Burns is the other URL that he has for the Look Into pTGC website. So it's the same website.
Yeah, same website.
Okay. Oh, I see. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm on
That's
that.
what it used to be called before he gave it the Look Into pTGC domain.
Okay. I'm in the pTGC market metrics section.
Yeah, you want to go over all the numbers so people can actually see it?
Yeah. Do you want to call them out? Or do you want me to review them?
Go ahead, bro.
Okay.
Go ahead.
24-hour volume. This is the last 24 hours. $86,000. pTGC liquidity, $7.25 million. Transactions in the last 24 hours, let's just call it 495. The ratio is 7.97 PLS per pTGC. And the circulating supply is 292.4 billion tokens, down from 333.3 billion tokens. We are 39 X's from 1 penny. 398 X's from a dime. Let's hit a dime, guys. Let's hit a dime. Our pTGC average daily volume for the last 7 days was $112,000, which is up 31%, I'm guessing, from the previous 7 days. Well, that's good. I didn't even notice that. 30-day average was $271,000, up 216%. 90-day average is $533,000. And the 180-day average is $427,000. We burned, it looks like we burned 3.2 million pTGC in the last 24 hours. The fee allocation for the last 24 hours, $4,281 in fees collected. And that's from, when the contract executes, it pays. It charges whoever's buying tokens, even if it's an AMM bot or selling tokens, 5%. And that totaled up to $4,281. That's small compared to what it has from what we've seen in the past, but that's really a significant amount in my estimation, $4,281. In the last 7 days, $39,000. In the last 30 days, $406,000. And that's divvied up and paid to holders and stakers also. And we can look at that. In the last 180 days, $3.8 million in fees was collected. So in the last 24 hours, $428 was to buy and burn pTGC. $428 was added to liquidity. $1,712 sent to the DAO, $856 sent to holders, $856 sent to stakers. Let's look at UFO.
I have a fun 14-day metric for PTGC that I made a tweet on a couple days ago. In the last 14 days, PTGC has bought and burnt $200,000 of PTGC. I think I tweeted it yesterday or something like that.
You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head like $200,000 worth of PTDC. You know how many people would love to have that much in their wallets, and we just burned it out of existence, just as a matter of course. Like,
well, bought and burned it. So we injected that PLS into the existing LP pools, and then removed that supply forever. And that's pretty close to the bottom of PTGC, like this whole range right here. I think some of that was scooped up like lower than here, and some of it scooped up a little bit higher, but grabbing a very cheap range. And then when PulseChain starts to remultiply, PTGC starts to remultiply off these floors, that $200,000 can very easily be worth $1 million. PTGC took it off the market.
Mm-hmm. That's fabulous. So here we go. Let's review the last 180-day fee allocations. So this is 6 months. $384,820 of PTDC was burned. $384,820 of PTDC was added to liquidity. $1.5 million was sent to the DAO. $1.5 million. $770,000 was paid to holders, and $770,000 was paid to stakers in the last 6 months. Okay, UFO metrics. Volume is $44,000. Liquidity is $6.8 million. UFO is not very impressive in the last 24 hours. But don't sense bearish tone in me. I'm bullish about UFO. This is crypto. It's cyclical. It's up one day, down the next. Circulating supply is 919 billion tokens. And that's what are we down? Are we down like 8% total? Yeah, 8.116% of the total supply has been burned. We are 560x away from a penny, 5,600x away from 10 cents. The 7-day average is up 36.8% to $61,000. Let's just zoom out to the 180-day. 180-day average was $375,000 and is up 740%. We burned a squid position in the last 24 hours. 19 million tokens. But the volume is really low, so normally we're burning larger positions than that. Everything is slow in crypto right now. Like there are guys in other telegrams. Everybody in here is probably in multiple Telegram groups. If you're on Telegram, and you can attest to this, that everything's pretty quiet. That's just how it is. So in the last 24 hours, UFO collected $2,679 in fees. In the last 7 days, it collected $25,665 in fees. Let's just zoom out to 180 days. 180 days, UFO collected just a fuzz over $4 million in fees. So let's break that down. In the last 6 months, UFO paid 2 LP providers for rewards $2 million. $675,000 bought and burned UFO. $675,000 was paid to holder rewards and reflections, and $675,000 bought and burned PTDC. The name of the game is HODL.
Yeah, that, and keep in mind, since UFO has launched, PLS still has not even broken sacrifice price.
Mm-hmm.
So that amount of buying and burning of value of pTGC, of UFO, those numbers have been done with ultimately PLS undervalued the whole entire time. So
Yeah.
not saying that the system needs PLS to break sacrifice price. I think it's pretty obvious that the system can thrive with it just staying below here forever. That's one benefit of being in pTGC and UFO is it's a sub-community on this extremely undervalued blockchain. Currently, the undervalued part has been a little bit of a hurdle, but when that hurdle gets crossed, it's, once you're at the lowest point, it's pretty much up from there. But it shows that the system can thrive in pretty much any environment, the worst of environments. So if something can thrive in a harsh environment, usually it can thrive in a thriving environment even more.
That's true. Yes. So not only has PulseChain been going sideways, but we haven't had a lot of adoption yet either in the Pulse network. I think a lot of money, money is being just circulated around into different projects. I think a lot of holders are at the end of their rope and they're not injecting as much seed capital as they were, a year, 2, 3 years ago.
Well, I think, the first time PulseChain came to these lows, people were willing to DCA in a little bit more, even if they didn't have some of the extra funds, right? People are starting to get spread thin. You come to these levels again on PulseChain, and people probably DCA'd for a second time, right? They got a little bit more of PulseChain than they previously had. And then PulseChain went up and didn't even hit sacrifice price, retapped those lows, and then broke even lower. I think just even the existing community that is here has DCA'd more times than they've felt they would. And you have to be realistic, right? You have to understand where people's emotions and where they're at. And I personally think, especially when you're on Twitter and stuff like that, you can see some of the strongest of the PulseChain community members, people who don't veer from their belief in Richard, feeling a little frustrated at this time. And I completely agree, right? This is, not to keep saying why it's so awesome to be within pTGC and UFO is it's because we do have control of our own destiny, right? Like a lot of these people have DCA'd in a system where they are helping, right? Every single person promoting PulseChain is helping PulseChain and helping bring adoption. But you can also tap with a portion of your portfolio into some of the sub ecosystems where you can actually change your life personally, right? Like Banana is, with his hard work, is actually changing his life. Coach, with some of his hard work with pTGC, has actually started changing his life, right? And the nice thing about that is because we're in a smaller organization on still an undervalued city, but we can thrive without the city technically thriving around us. We're like our own restaurant. Just because the city's dead, that doesn't mean this restaurant needs to be dead. We can thrive. We can have all the customers. We can ultimately be thriving no matter what. And it is nice to be in a situation where you do have a little bit of control of your family's future, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the easiest example is in the last 2 years, almost 2 years, year and a half of pTGC, if you've been DCAing every single month into pTGC and you've been around, let's say you take a portion of your paycheck and you say, once a month I'm going to throw $1,000 in. You've bought in some higher points and you've bought in some lower points, but overall the DCA method has been working with this system, with the store of value system. The chart has been trending in upwards direction, but if you did that technically with Ethereum right now, you would be in a negative direction. or if you did it with PulseChain, you would be in a negative direction. I don't mean that in a negative way to Ethereum or to PulseChain, but you do have to be realistic, and you have to kind of look around you and understand where the community is and where they're frustrated and what they're frustrated with.
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, you know, when PulseChain turns around, when morale changes, because it can change so quickly, right? A couple green candles and all the energy comes back. I do believe people probably will start to DCA back in once the bottom is confirmed, even the existing PulseChain people, because the energy, the morale will change and it will feel more lively. And also this will attract outside people from other blockchains, non-crypto people, etc. That's one thing that I feel like PulseChain is really good about, is they're not only bringing in people from other blockchains, they're actually bringing in a lot of people from real life. And I think the reason why they have to tap into real life people so often is because the in crypto people don't really give Richard the chance, right? So when you bring up Richard to someone who's already heavily in crypto and not into Richard products, they don't really like that idea. They're against Richard most likely. A lot of them are. But if you tap into like in real life people, they don't really know about crypto and they don't know about Richard, and they don't already have an idea in their head about Richard based on what other people on the internet are saying, even though that information's false, right? There's a lot of people even in the Richard Heart community that said at one point they faded Richard because of what other people were saying about him.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they looked into him themselves, they actually disagreed, right? They're like, no, he's actually guiding people in the right direction. He's actually helping people. The reason people are calling him a scammer is because they're technically affiliated with scams themselves usually. And if the one person is calling you a scammer, the easiest thing to do is bark back that he's the scammer, just with a louder voice.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely hard to onboard even people from in real life when Ethereum isn't getting the adoption, you know, general crypto isn't getting the adoption that we need. That's the easiest conversation starter in real life about crypto, right? Is when charts are going upwards, people are willing to listen and learn. But when charts are sideways or downwards, it's not a fun conversation. It's usually just a conversation you probably avoid.
Yeah. Yeah. The more down the charts are, the more of the community is just the hardcore believers, you know, the people that, you know where the thing is going.
But the funny thing about it is usually when the times are like this is actually the best time to educate them on it, right? This is the best time to inform them, educate them, tell them about it. Even if it's not the time they're going to get involved, but now it's on their radar, right? At the bottom. And that's really, if you're going to get in people in real life, what's better? To get them in at the bottom or get them in at the top? Obviously, if you're meeting them in real life, it's probably someone you know personally. It usually makes sense to get people you care about in at lows, not highs.
Yes. But unfortunately, what I've discovered is that, like, as far as bringing in the masses, those people are going to come when a lot of them are going to come when they hear about their favorite influencer talk about it. But you know what I found is that, you know, we're trying to get interviews, and a lot of people they're like, well, hit me up when things are hot so we can do an interview about the grays when things are really cooking. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yes. However, you know, why not bring your audience in when everything's red? But they understand that they're not going to get the engagement when the chart is red. They're going to get the engagement and the response that they would like when we have green candles.
Yeah, when I kind of see general people coming into crypto is when crypto people are changing their lives in real life, right? Mm-hmm. When they see Banana changing his life in real life because he's been in crypto through the trenches, it's usually when the general public starts to come in. It's not before that, because they have to see you change your life first before they hop on board, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also when the Grays community people, when their lives have been changed so much that they no longer need to depend on a job, and they can perhaps start a YouTube channel or be more attentive to their Twitter account and posting about the Grays currencies. And what does that do? That garners more adoption.
Yeah, definitely the community engagement could go a long way and pick up, I think, with the Grays. I think with the amount of people we have and lives we've changed so far, we could definitely be a little bit louder. But like you said, it's when the market is generally lower, people tend to get a little bit quiet. But when things turn around, everyone kind of gets their voice back and gets back to work.
Yeah, it's almost like when things slow down, sure, we can pick up the pace a little bit, but it's almost like maybe we should slow down too and be a little bit of a reflection of the market. Just so we don't want to stand out like a sore thumb, But I would say that
I would agree with that. I think we keep close to the floor and just keep pushing and do what we know has worked and what we've always done.
Sure. I'd like to lead the charge coming out of the slow time.
Definitely.
Yep. PulseChain Trainer echoes what Coach said a few minutes ago. The bottom line is nothing happens until ETH moves. That's true. What were you about to say?
I was going to say that if there's anyone on YouTube have any questions or comments. Was that it?
Yeah, that was it.
If anyone who's listening has any questions or comments, wants to add to the conversation, feel free to come up and ask them. This space is for the questions and comments, not so much for me and Banana just to ramble. So if you have anything, feel free to come up and add to the conversation. Banana, we are getting pretty close to the hour, so if no one's coming up, maybe for fun, we can just run a couple moon mass situations. We have PulseChain at very, very low liquidity levels in general, so we can run a few simulations on what happens to PulseChain with very, very little money injected.
Yeah.
And then you could do an X multiplier of, in the last year, we're definitely over a 10x on the X multiplier, so we could use a 10x X multiplier. Or if anyone listening has any numbers they want us to plug in as far as an X multiplier for pTGC against the market, or a dollar figure injected into PulseChain, that could be from onboarding, that could be a whale just wanting to take a large position, that could be SAC funds coming in, just a fun number that people are looking to use to see where that takes us, along with being in a multiplier on top of the blockchain.
Yeah. So who's got a number that they want to pump into Pulse to see what it would, how it would affect the price? Do you got
0.001?
You want a 0.001 Pulse?
No, give us a number of like a dollar figure coming over the bridge and getting injected into Pulse.
Say 20 million.
Okay. So I'm on Pampy.app. We're simulating injecting $20 million into Pulse. We'll calculate it. And remove this comment real quick. That would move Pulse 12.5x. So from its current price, it would move up to 0.0004, which would be, is that above that? Yeah, that'd be 3 times SAC price. That'd be sweet. Okay, so then you can take that over to look into pTGC, and we will do an X factor of 10 for pTGC, and then we'll plug in the token price of 0.0004 and see what the price of and how many X's pTGC would do. Calculate. That'd be a 3-cent pTGC. That'd be 127X. Wow. I wasn't expecting to see that.
Banana, you don't get out of bed for anything less than a 10-cent pTGC.
No, I do. I mean, I would. I'll get out of bed for a 1 penny 10 pTGC. That's going to change a lot of people's lives. I mean, when we start getting up into those cents, I'm going to tell you, pTGC has already changed a lot of lives. I like what somebody's been saying recently about it. You know, you would not believe the number of people or how much value has been extracted from pTGC, and it's still here. And what does that mean? People are taking profits. I would love to see how much profit has been taken out of pTGC, and by how many people. I'd love to see like an average. I don't think it's possible to find that out, but it would be fun. So a 13X in PLS, and that's only injecting, like Coach said, $20 million into Pulse, and that's nothing. I don't know if you've traveled around this country, but there's money everywhere in the United States of America. $20 million injected into Pulse moves it.
Well, that's one of the wonderful things about crypto is it's not a United States-based asset; it's a world-based asset. So
Yeah,
we definitely tap into things based in the United States. We have the whole entire world to play or to get involved, which gives maximum upside potential. Obviously, finance is one of the biggest sectors in general. You know, a very nice thing for us is in the finance sector, store of value is a huge piece of it, right? That's the majority of what Bitcoin is used for, is to store value. Gold is, for the most part, people hold gold for storing value. And pTGC, if successful, right, if this idea turns out to what we obviously believe it will turn out to be, we're tapping into one of the biggest finance sectors out there, store of value. And in the store of value sector, one of the main things people use to store value is indexes, right? And obviously we're an index of this chain, which really lets us hit what has worked very well in the past in this category. We are, right? And I think that sets us up for a good future. We're just, instead of using old tech, we're on cutting edge tech blockchain.
Yeah, we are.
Which equals pretty much no middleman and max value going back to the system, helping appreciate the price.
Yep.
It's going to be exciting. It's like everyone here, like, I don't think really realizes it because we're so in it, but no one on earth really realizes what we're doing as far as on PulseChain and on blockchain, creating indexes, trying to become the new store of value assets for the world, right? If this experiment of blockchain and PulseChain is successful, like, we are technically creating the new assets for the whole entire world. Because if blockchain is successful and we have all the liquidity, whatever has all the liquidity becomes the main world's asset, because they'd have to tap into this asset to get access to the liquidity. Or you have to sit on the sidelines and just not participate. But what you find is when you create an environment worth playing in, and the liquidity's there to back it, the price appreciation's there to back it, and the sustainability there, the performance, and trustlessness, right? Like, you want them to trust it, but really you want them to trust it because it's trustless. They technically are forced to come, and that's one of the things that like always stood out really, really strong with RH to me is he always kind of put it out there like, I'm gonna force them to come. They don't need to come now. They don't need to believe in me now, but they will be forced to participate if it's that good.
Yes.
Well, hey, Banana, I did some numbers in terms of how much volume happened in the last 80 days. So this is just the last 80 days. There was about $76.9 million of volume with PTGC alone. So if you want to, I don't know, guess if there was like 10% of that volume were humans and 90% were ARBs. This is hypothetically, it's not okay, guys. This is for the listeners and everybody. But what's this say? That's 7 point. What did I say? 7.6 million dollars of buy and sells, and then we half that. So there's about 2.5 to $3 million and cells of humans in terms of the last 80 days. I could be wrong with the math, and I'm just giving out different like percentages what I think is going on with the volume and everything.
I brought up that point the other day to another founder, and he gave me a little pushback. And the point I was making, because he was asking me about pTGC, and I told him that we estimate somewhere between like 50 to 80% of the transactions are bots. And he's like, "Are you sure about that?" I was like, "No." He said, "Well, why don't you guys do an experiment? Pair up a couple of tokens, a couple of coins, and see what the volume is. Just do really small amounts so you could track the transactions." And I don't know how to do that, but if somebody wanted to, if that experiment makes sense, and if we could really extract, data like how much of the volume is actually bots, then it would be cool if somebody could set up an experiment like that. Did that
Honestly,
make sense?
Yeah, I would just destroy that experiment, because you add the liquidities, and if it's a small amount, there's not going to be any kind of humans that are going to want to go through those LP pools. So that defeats the argument right there. But just tell your buddy that I think we have some of the best wallet trackers in the PulseChain community anyways. So just we look at this chart every single day too. So it is I think it's more of an 80-20% split.
80% bots?
Yeah, that's the exact number. It depends on the day, but on average, I completely agree with you, Coach. That was the number I was going to say. Is right now, I feel like we have 80% market maker bots, 20% human interaction.
Yes. Yeah, but then as price goes up, as the market gets really hot, then it probably flips to where it's more humans.
Nope.
I mean, you think
it stays the same all the way up and all the way down.
Okay.
It varies, right? Like each day is different, but on average, it seems like that's a pretty good guess. We're just guessing. But what Coach is getting at is as price goes up, you have to realize that the market maker volume is going to increase as well.
Yeah.
Because now they need to move more money. But also human interaction will pick up due to, just now new people coming in and wanting to participate. The fact that PulseChain might actually have new users on it gives us new people to tap into as far as finding this product. But I agree with Coach to an extent, right? Like the market makers will always be there. I don't think it's going to shift drastically. And as we get more human interaction, we also get more market maker interaction because large human buys and sells create
the ARBs to fix the pools.
Yeah, create ARBs to fix pools, and it creates the movements and so on and so forth. But 100%. Like on some days it could be 50-50, but some days could be 90-10. You know, it's kind of just a, you know, on average kind of thing, maybe 70%, 80%. But it is unique to see the system is right now, for an example, UFO, for the last week, UFO has been for sure majority just market making, just literally the utility just working.
Yep.
Hasn't been much human interaction. PTGC, there's a little bit more to watch because there are more humans that interact with PTGC than UFO.
Okay, that makes sense.
More holders, and people are up more, right? You're in more profits. That means people take more profits. That means usually more attention, more people talking, etc., more people buying.
PulseChain Trainer asked the question. He says, any concerns about the OG PTDC holders rolling back into the RH core? I'll take a shot at this one. Perhaps, but if they look at if they're really thinking about rolling out a PTDC into an RH core, they should look at the chart before they do that and look at the chart in terms of the token that they're looking to enter into. You know, ink, for example, look at the PTDC ink chart in terms of ink. How many ink does it cost you per PTDC? And see how well PTDC has been performing against ink. And make your decision based on the performance of the tokens. So I
think anyone who's a decent holder of PTGC understands PTGC is all of the RH tickers. It's literally an index of all of the RH tickers. So it necessarily, they understand mathematically, it doesn't do them much good because when they own PTGC, they technically own the RH tickers as a claim check for when they want to, you know, take profits. But when they hold PTGC, they hold an asset that's more deflationary than the majority, if not all, the RH tickers, and it pays you APY just for holding. So you're not only holding a claim check on those tickers with some of the largest liquidity pools on chain. Some might even argue when prices start moving up, we might have more liquidity than some of the single RH tickers, right? Like if you look at our web compared to possibly Hex, we might have more liquidity when you combine PTGC and UFO. I don't know that for a fact, but we have more liquidity. Technically, we're highly more deflationary, so more percentage of the supply is getting burnt daily. We get paid APY just for holding. And then on top of that, since we're a smaller cup, we can do even more X's easier. That's not a guarantee that we're going to do more X's, but if you study the last year and a half, it's made more sense to hold this asset over the RH tickers just due to it being a smaller asset class and it being mathematically designed to outperform. Again, that's no guarantee, right? People can take profits and that could hurt the chart. But it's worked well. If they're a big holder, they've probably been in the system for a while, and it's worked well, very, very well for them to remain in this asset for as long as possible. Like we're continuously making higher highs. PulseChain is making lower lows. So I don't see why they would feel the need to move out of the thing that's done so well for them and has shown to pretty much repeat this over time. It's so by design, designed to outperform them.
So Zan, I would just throw in there too that for the most part, larger holders of this ecosystem also already own billions of PulseChain, millions and millions of Hex outside of the system, right? So that's just my personal experience being involved, and just knowing a lot of the people that are involved, that they already are whales in the system in terms of, you know, owning 5, 10, 15, 20 billion just Pulse alone, 5 to 10 million Hex alone. So when you already have what other people would consider massive positions in the cores, you know, you no longer really, I mean, how much of the cores do you need? Right?
Yep.
Is really what it starts to come down to. Now, when somebody's taken a position, like for example, anyone who is a whale, for example, in pTGC, they're in a position that is worth $1 million or whatever right now, right? Up at the top, it was worth much more than that. But it's also been a 19-month journey from the time of the deployment to now. And you could have taken a lot of profits into PulseChain. So for example, right now, if I pinged off 100 Gs of my pTGC position or one of my UFO positions into PulseChain at 4 zeros and a basically 3 or 2.9 or whatever, you're talking about basically getting like a 10x more than the original 3 zeros and a 1 sacrifice set. So I would have had to put in how much money at 3 zeros and a 1 to get the same amount of bag that I'm now putting in 100 Gs to get the same amount of bag down here at these levels, right? And those individuals back then would have been like, oh my gosh, that I'm probably just going to become a millionaire just by owning X amount. So the question is, how many billions in Pulse do you think you need to own to become a millionaire? It's what everybody thinks, right? It's what everybody says. Well, once you have racked up a portfolio in the cores already, you start diversifying out of the cores. But when you do that, you don't just diversify out of the cores into dog poo-poo. Not larger players. They have a part of their portfolio where they're having fun doing that, right? But, you know, I was listening to a gentleman the other day or on X, and some of these people are just complaining about, you know, pumped out tires isn't good for PulseChain or meme coins aren't good for PulseChain. But every time somebody's saying that, it's because when you look at their profile, they're maxis, right? But I guarantee you, if you've been participating on the chain in meme coins or in other protocols, you've had so much gains that you've been able to roll back into the cores that you should have billions of the asset, right? So if you're going to continue to be on PulseChain, understand that they already have a ton of the cores, for the most part, people in these positions. And if they don't, what you end up seeing is, okay, people will start getting antsy. And like, for example, when I have people that I've brought in over the last 19 months who've made a lot of money, you know, if they ever start getting antsy, it's just one of those things where, look, if you're feeling like you're just over leveraged, ping off some into PulseChain, right? Mm-hmm. Until you're feeling comfortable again, just for whatever reason. So, but I'm just telling you, it's my experience, you know, that most of the individuals who are larger players already have massive core positions outside of the pTGC positions and other things.
Yeah. That's fair. That's a fair assumption.
Yeah, it's not an assumption. From my vantage point, it's not an assumption. Everyone I personally know that's in the top 50, top, you know, whatever, in terms of the leagues, they've got billions of PulseChain. They've got millions of Hex.
Yeah, I think 2 points to bring up too is they've been proven, if you are a large holder of pTGC, you've kind of proven yourself to be probably some of the best holders on all of PulseChain, because you've literally ran a token up hundreds of X's and you haven't sold it.
I mean, why would I sell, for example, I'll just speak from my position, right? Why would I get rid of my pTGC bag when I'm making an absolute smashing in passive income every month? Literally, I'll just put it over $10,000 a month in passive income in PulseChain at the lows without having to sell my position. And it's actually more than that a lot of the time. And this is at very low volume, right? And that's why when you have a larger position, if you've already got a lot of the cores, like you're sitting here going, why would I sell a massively deflationary asset that mathematically is tied to the asset? In other words, the way that V2 works is owning pTGC means I actually own the RH cores.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If the RH cores go up, this asset goes up with it. Right? It's backed by the RH cores, just like the dollar used to be backed by gold. It's a proxy for the same asset, except for it's hyper deflationary and it's paying us actual monthly income that I can ping off right back into the cores. So not only do people with the larger positions already have cores, but they're making so much passive income every month at lows, low volume, low activity, that they can ping off into the cores without selling off their principal position.
Yeah, that's important to bring up, right? Like they can even pay bills or take profits, but they technically never even need to touch their initial position, and everything that they're earning in APY is from the utility of the system itself. It's not from inflation or anything. It's actually value generated, not printed.
It's the same exact thing, just in a different way when you think of LP providers. A lot of people that don't get it, they say, well, I don't like impermanent loss. Well, everyone that I know that's larger players on a blockchain, they don't care about impermanent loss because they're making so much money in passive income every month. And they're able to take that money and put it into whatever they want, that they don't need to worry about the principal interest of the token pairing in the LP.
Well, on top of that, they're picking two assets that they're happy with either side, right?
Right. You're not. I don't mean an asset, Zen, where one's kind of trash and one's not. I mean, these are both legitimate assets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a fair question, but in reality, what I just shared really is the reality of how it actually looks.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was bringing up the fact that the people who have decent positions have obviously held hundreds of X's already, right? So they're pretty known to be, in my opinion, some of the best holders out there. But not only have they shown that, but they've actually tested it, right? Like in a lot of the assets, we actually haven't seen how the other communities are going to hold up to 10X's, 20X's, 30X's, 50X's. Not to cast shade or anything, but if you haven't actually seen your community go through those hurdles, you don't know yet in real life how they're going to react. A cool thing about the pTGC ecosystem is since we've done 10X, 20X, 30X, 50X, 100X, we've actually gotten to see how the big holders of pTGC react. Do they sell? Do they hold? Does the price not really matter to them and they're just believing in the system long term? Do they plan on, we've actually gotten to see how they act, where a lot of other assets that people are afraid of them pinging off into, they don't even think about the fact that that asset that you think they're going to ping into, they don't even know how the whales of that system are going to react when X's start happening. And then you kind of have to ask yourself, do you think that the large holders of pTGC are going to ping themselves into assets where they don't know how the large holders are going to act just to hold it? They might ping themselves off if they want to take a little profits. This is the only direction you can go. But for just holding the asset, I think they've found to be very comfortable here within this community. Like you said, it's hyper deflationary and pays you just for holding.
Well, the other thing is that just the practical application of it is, I always say know what you own. And when you look at pTGC, you have to ask the question, like the gentleman said, somebody pinging off into the core, right? So let's just talk about Pulse again, okay? Do I want to own Pulse, the gas coin, the native gas coin, or do I want to own pTGC? Okay. Well, look at where the price of PulseChain is. It's basically just down, right? That doesn't mean that you can't make money on PulseChain because the native coin is down. This is a misnomer. A lot of people out there like, oh, look at the chart of PulseChain. You guys are just wrecked over there. No, dude, we're not. Because people have been actualizing 50, 100,000, 5,000 X's on PulseChain, and that's real X's. So if I'm looking at it from the vantage point of, do I want PulseChain or do I want something else? The only reason why you'd want something else is because it's actually backed by PulseChain. It's convertible into PulseChain for nominal or minimal slippage at any time. And it's outperforming PulseChain. So here's the question I have for the audience. If PulseChain turns around, because that's the only reason why you'd be asking the question, should I ping some off into PulseChain? If PulseChain turns around, here's the question. Over the last 18 to 19 months of watching the machine, of watching the pTGC machine, has it or has it not proved to us as holders, accumulating all of the data and all the KPIs, that it actually truly is a proxy and a claim check on the PulseChain? And has it or has it not outperformed PulseChain based on the current holders and the holders that have already been washed out of the system in the past? And am I not benefiting on top of it with earning a phenomenal passive income in a hyperdeflationary asset that when the price goes back up, the million tokens I'm getting a day or the whatever amount of tokens you're getting a day instantly does a 10x, and you're not currently making 10,000 a week or a month. Now you're making 100,000 a month, right? Whereas if we were staying in the gas coin, you didn't get any of those tokens from APY. You didn't see that deflationary aspect. You didn't have the buy and burns. You didn't have all the ability to completely enlarge the web, to constantly enlarge the amount of revenue that's coming back into the system, which gives us more yield. So that's why I always said that, pTGC is a performance amplifier symbiotically connected and built into PulseChain's ecosystem. So until somebody can prove that over time frames that pTGC isn't outperforming the cores, like drastically, it would make no sense to sell it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Is like every time it does it, we're gathering more data and it's proving itself to do it. The more data we gather, and if it keeps doing it, it will make that mathematical estimate, right? The mathematical estimate that we're thinking, if you just remain in pTGC, you're going to get all the growth of Pulse plus price go up and APY. As time goes on, and that if that keeps happening, it becomes more of a guarantee, just mathematically, like, hey, now we have 5 years of success to show this. Hey, now we have 15 years of success to show this. At that point, you have to kind of ask yourself, when people come to PulseChain, how many people will store their value on the blockchain in pTGC with that much data to back it, if it keeps doing that, right? And then what does that do for the early adopters? Obviously, that then keeps pushing the price up, and it makes more value in the liquidity web, continuously adding more buy and burn, adding more APY. That's what is super nice about the system, is everyone who buys into the system, their value naturally gets distributed across the liquidity web, and that value gets instantly put to work. So when people enter into pTGC, their value isn't just sitting in the liquidity pool waiting for users to enter in and out of it. It actually gets put to work to generate revenue for the system to keep it doing what it's designed to do.
Well, yeah, because, just think about it, man. The guy asked about the whale positions, right? So if a whale, and I think I don't know what the exact volume is, but let's just throw out a number, right? If a whale position is garnering, and I just mean a whale position, is garnering 1 million coins a day, right? Let's just say it's 1 million tokens a day, just for the sake of conversation. That's currently almost 8 million pulse per day. If you converted that pTGC back into pulse every day, right? So if you're doing 8 million pulse a day and you times that by 30 days, it's 250 million PulseChain a month. That's your dollar cost averaging in if you were selling your yield only back into the core, right? Whereas a normal person would have to come out of pocket, and I don't know exactly what that would be, right? But if you're talking about 250 million PulseChain a month and you got a DCA strategy, do you know what? How many people do you know that's got 6, 7, 8, 9 G's a month just to DCA in to get 250 million pulse at current price? So that's, and I'm talking about at essentially no volume. You're talking about bringing in these numbers, or even if you split it in half, you're talking about DCAing for free 5 G's a month into course without having to relinquish your position.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Hex, if you put $5,000 into Hex, $5,000. Let's just say you didn't even get the 10,000x. Let's just say you got, $5,000 and you got the 500x, right? You still turn it into $2.5 million.
I'm here, Steve.
Yeah, so for me, a lot of it has to do with asking yourself the question, with a never seen before asset class like this, kind of first in its kind, first in its class, do you have the balls to relinquish a whale position out of pTGC before you know that, Richard's blockchain is just devastatingly failed and it's just going to go to zero? Right? That literally is the position that people have to deal with in their minds. I would have to be freaking crazy to relinquish my position, because the risk to reward ratio is so big, it's so wide, right? That it's my goodness, just a 10x on PulseChain from here, and it's game freaking over, it so easily could happen.
Yeah, so, and for an example, what you were just saying with those numbers, if PulseChain 10x is mathematically on how this is designed, technically that APY dollar amount that you're receiving, in that example, I think you said it was around $10,000 a month. Well, very easily that becomes $100,000 a month. And again, yeah, you could sell your position and I guess cash out a very large lump sum. But like you said, a lot of the big players within PTGC already have large lump sums in other assets. And you have to ask yourself, which one are they more likely to cash out? The non-hyper-deflationary one that doesn't pay them APY, or the hyper-deflationary one that pays them APY? Most likely if they're gonna take profits, it's gonna be from the thing that's not paying them APY, not appreciating as much, and not hyper-deflationary. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, so, long answer to a great question, but I think it's important for people to hear kind of the mindset behind how people in those positions think and why they think those things.
Yeah, nice to have a question. I feel like we haven't gotten a question in so long that we really beat that one to death.
PulseChain Trainer asks another question. He said, if they're selling off their APY, will it not hurt the price?
You want to take that one? I can do it, but Zen, you can field it.
You can do it, Mando. I'd like to hear your answer, unless you just want me to do it.
Yeah, let's hear Mr. Founder give his discourse on this one.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing this is another thing I love about PTGC is you do not get paid APY unless the value is generated. So anything that a whale or a shark or a dolphin receives is technically a portion of the supply that didn't get given to them without it being purchased or given to them upon a purchase, upon a market maker fixing prices, or right before someone's selling their position anyways, right? So every time a user is earning an APY, that APY was technically never going to land in their hands anyways if the system wasn't operating as the system does. For an example, a market maker. If the market maker didn't have to pay the fee, it would just market make free of charge. This is what they do on most tokens all day long. We just are making them pay a fee to market make. Or if a user bought and gives you the APY that way, if there was no fee, that user that bought technically would just keep the whole amount. If the user sold, that user would have been selling anyways. He just gave you a portion of his sell before it went to his wallet. But the other important thing, so pretty much every single APY is backed by actual value before you even receive it. So even if you sold every 100% of your APY, it technically won't even hurt the chart more than the chart would have already been hurt. But this is the trick. We designed it to where every single APY that's paid out is technically in the same transaction backed by more value going into the LP pool than that's even coming out. Because on every transaction, 5% of the transaction is a fee. 2% of that is going to APY, so 40%, but 60% is going to the DAO, which does buy and burns or LP ads, or the automatic buy and burn, or the automatic LP ad. So with every single transaction, pretty much the APY is double backed by more value going back into the system to forever support the APY that's getting paid out, making it so the APY that's paid out doesn't affect the chart of PTGC. In normal situations, APY gets paid out in inflation. If you don't have a user coming in to buy the inflation, so new users constantly coming in, the only way the APY can get paid out is by the chart price going down. Our system will never pay out an APY unless it has users coming in or value being generated or its utility generating the revenue. And not only that, it's also double backing that value, pretty much making it so the chart can still trend upwards with the system, even with people taking 100% APY out.
Yeah, so like the inverted reality that would be like Hex, right? Where You can buy Hex, burn it in a smart contract, get T-shares, wait a year, your stake comes up, and you can mint your principal back plus new tokens that technically there was no new financial energy injected into the system, into the liquidity pools to undergird that new minted on top of the principal, right? So that's a situation where unless there's more interest coming in, it can hurt the chart, right? But again, with PTGC, I never receive a PTGC token in the form of APY unless it was first purchased and then sent to me, number one. So there had to be a market buy on the chart out of the existing LPs in order to send it to me. And then on the other side of that transaction, there's 60% more capital going into LPs, into buy and burns, than there is the 40% that's going out. So that's the difference between APY that's being paid out in an inflationary system versus basically a first of its kind system like this, which is revenue generating. And the only time you receive APY is when there's APY that's able to be purchased first by the system and then distributed.
That's genius. And I'm going to get the notes from that one. That was really good. Thanks for answering that question.
Yeah, while we're on the topic real quick too, another cool thing about it is even if you're a user who does sell 100% of your APY, your position of the circulating supply is still ever growing, which then also means your percentage of APY is ever growing as well. So you can continuously take all your APY and sell it on the market every single day, and your position will still ever be growing against the circulating supply, and your APY would, in percentage-wise, will always be increasing as well.
I got to take credit for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I figured that one out, it was like an epiphany moment. I was like, Zen, like you can sit here selling your APY all day long. It's still, and still be gaining in your actual percentage position of the rewards pool, because the token itself is deflationary, which means that there's constantly less and less and less tokens available in supply that can actually yield you a yield, right? So as long as you're never getting rid of your principal, even if you're selling your interest, you're actually enlarging the actual percentage of your yield pool percentage. That's freaking astronomical if you understand what was just shared. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, so hence your PTGC tokens are technically miners, but they're value generating miners. So instead of mining inflation of a product, you're actually mining the value that the product generates. So PTGC in turn is like code that's a business. So the code actually generates revenue, and your portion of your supply is your claim check on that revenue. You can cash out that revenue every single day, and as long as you don't give up your miners, there's going to be less miners that exist the following day to compete against you. And it turns into a game, if this functions as planned, who's willing to hold on their miners the longest and keep earning the passive yield? Or the other side of it is your miner becomes worth more money on the resale than what you believe it's worth, and then you sell it into the liquidity pool and someone else buys the miner. Or the DAO buys the miner, or the smart contract buys the miner and sends it to the junkyard forever.
Yeah, so it's just like a halvening, a Bitcoin halvening, right? Or it's just like a T-share rate ratcheting up against Hex tokens and Hex terms. Every single day, you have less and less tokens in supply that are miners, and they're being removed from the market. So the APY that could or would go to those miners that have been removed from the market daily can never again go to those miners because they've been destroyed, and now they're forced to go to the current miners that are in the system. So as long as you hold your miners, your APY percentage of the pool continues to go up. And that's just an amazing part of this system that you really don't get it until you see it in action.
Yeah, Banana. Tell PulseChain, thanks for bringing the questions. You know, we really appreciate them, and it makes the space that much more enjoyable. Not only, I think, for me, Mando, and you for the conversations, but definitely for probably everyone listening as well.
Yeah, he hears you, and he appreciates your answer. He really does. So, and yeah, I seriously got some good notes out of that one. I haven't heard that explanation in quite a while, and I needed to hear that.
Yeah, and I guess that could be a good reminder for anyone. If you're someone who has questions but just doesn't like to come up on spaces, you can always go type your questions in on Banana's comment section of his YouTube. And also you can watch visually there as well, too, and see Banana's handsome face as well. It's a double win.
You're very funny.
I was not joking, Banana.
You know, I want to bring this up too while we're on. I think this is good information for people. Recently, with that kind of mega dip on PulseChain that happened between just the dip of PulseChain and then that big FUD event with PDI on chain, you know, we went into new all-time lows on PulseChain. Right? We basically were hoping for a triple bottom, and it ended up breaking into new all-time lows. And when it broke into all-time lows, you know, we were up there, you know, everything was going well. pTGC almost hit a $350 million market cap, and then, you know, we kind of went back down again, right? But during that time, the protocol, the DAO, just was collecting PulseChain. Because it doesn't make any sense to try to catch a, you know, falling knife when you can just gather up a bunch of value, and then when you see a reversal at a specific bottom, you can start buying assets back up at cheaper prices, right? So what we witnessed, and it's very hard to do, and a lot of protocols aren't willing to do it. They'll just, as a dev, they'll just try to prop their system up or something like this. With centralized systems, we'll try to just prop it up and just kind of try to save the chart, in quotes, if you will, right? Well, just so you know, if you look at the chart of pTGC and you look at the chart of PulseChain going into that new all-time low, there was zero DAO funds going into the actual chart. So what that actually represents is 100% natural market sentiment, market activity on the asset, and it bottomed out in terms of pulse to pTGC ratio right around 8 to 1. In terms of USD value, it was right around, I don't remember, guys, it's probably around a $50 million market cap. So without the DAO injecting any money, saying, we're just going to let it naturally go, and where it goes is where it goes. Why? Because we want to see what the actual demand is. We want to see what the actual price of the asset is on the market for real. No BS, fabricated price, no trying to jack up the price, manipulate the price, none of that. Well, what happened? We landed at about a $53 million market cap, or whatever the heck it was, and at about an 8 to 1 ratio against PulseChain. I mean, on a blockchain currently in the predicament that we're in, you know, post SEC, now we've won, post all the PDI FUD, that's kind of pretty much all dissipated, waiting for Bitcoin to tell us if we're going into a sell in May, go away, or a bullish uptrend event, which technically, historically, is a 50-50 chance of going either way currently. The system told us that in the current market sentiment, that the system is being valued by the people who know about it at around a $50-55 million market cap at the bottom. Now, recently, there's been ads to the LP web, and I think, Zen, you just said that in your last tweet, like over the last week and a half or 2 weeks, like almost $250,000 went and just bought and burnt tons of miners, right?
Yeah, in the last 14 days, $200,000 was bought and burnt of pTGC from the system, a combination of the DAO and smart contracts and UFO. But yeah, that's a good point to bring up. I probably would have worded it a little bit different, but it's important to realize that normally the holders have to compete with the DAO for buying the tokens off the market. For a period of time, we just let the chart go and said, okay, where are the holders going to buy this too? But looking forward, forever, every user will have to compete against the DAO for the most part for the remaining tokens on the market. So I think it's like 10 billion tokens exist on the market in LP, and the DAO and the smart contracts are going to buy portions of those tokens every single day for the rest of the existence of PulseChain. And however many tokens remaining is really the amount of tokens that's for the whole entire world. Because we have to be honest, pretty much no one knows about PulseChain, let alone pTGC at this point. And we're kind of talking about, we're in a unique situation. As a small community on this small blockchain, we are literally trying to change how store of values and assets work in reality today. We're literally trying to change how the world is set up to put money in it, or not money, but to build assets to maximize their growth, right? To put the power in the individual's hands. Instead of having to play other people's games, we're making our own game where the individuals can win. No one even knows we're doing this. No one even knows that this group of 30 guys are on a Spaces right now on Twitter talking about changing how assets could possibly function for the next 100 years of reality. But if we get enough liquidity and we make the asset scarce enough, the real world eventually has to play our game. What do you think happened with Bitcoin?
I'm sure there's no there. Of course there is.
Mm-hmm.
What a concept.
We'll just have to wait. Not too long, I hope.
Where we're at right now is just no one knows it exists. We're a group of 30 guys talking about internet money right now, trying to change how assets function in the world. Putting it on a blockchain that ultimately no one knows about, but that's fully decentralized. Will we change how assets work? Maybe not, right? We're all taking a risk being here, but by studying how every asset and how value has been being created for the last 1,000 years and putting that on a blockchain that's pretty much one of the most decentralized blockchains out there, and mixing it with code that's renounced and unchangeable, and you have a liquidity web that's unruggable and burnt, this is going to function on this chain for the rest of the existence of the chain. We'll see where that takes us 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but what it could equal is a group of, I think there's probably 3,000 holders that hold over $1,000 of pTGC. But what we're part of is technically a group of people, like everyone here on PulseChain, a group of people that are trying to change how money works, how store of value works for the future of, times to come. It's crazy to think about that when you really zoom out and think about how small we are and how much supply is left, how much value could be here in the future, no one even knows it exists.
Yeah, at current prices, $200,000, you're looking at buying about 700 to 800 million tokens off the market, right? I mean, that's a lot in just 14 days. That's a massive position. Like, everybody in this system, even now, would envy a 700-800 million token position. And the system is literally just buying that up and just burning it out of the system, which means that all those miners, all those tokens are gone. And all the APY associated to those tokens that could have been paying out are gone. They can no longer pay out, which means all the APY now has to go to me. It has to go to Prairie. It has to go to Coach. It has to go to Ian. It has to go to Zen. It has to go to Crypto Stylist. It has to go to all of the holders because there's no other place for it to go.
Yeah.
It's super powerful.
If no one has anything else, Banana, I will be shutting it down here soon. Do you have any more questions on YouTube?
There are no further questions on YouTube.
Okay, I got a few minutes. I just kind of want to give that last call out there. If anyone listening wants to come up and add to the conversation, or if anyone on YouTube has any questions, feel free to.
Yeah, so I just want to put it out there, Zen. So that's right around almost 7 billion. It's about 6.5 billion PulseChain that bought and burnt pTGC tokens out of the market in the last 14 days. That's billion with a B.
Yeah, and you have to realize that PulseChain is technically pushed into the liquidity pools. It's pushed into the chart. So it's not supply just being removed from circulation. So that's not just miners being removed from circulation, but when those miners are being removed, the value that those miners were worth are getting pushed into the liquidity pools for everyone else to bolster up the value of their miners, right? Of their pTGC tokens. So it's not just burning them. It's literally giving the value of those ones being removed to the current people who hold the asset.
Yeah, I think that it's important, and then maybe we can kind of cap it off here, but it's important to really understand kind of the sleight of hand that's going on quietly in this machine right now. Because the things that are actually happening, like what we're talking about, because you don't see it on the chart, you can tend to not realize that it's actually there, right? Because the only thing that most people look at in this space is the chart. Is it red or is it green? But with this system, it's different. It's different than that because it's a first of its kind cryptocurrency. It's never been seen before. And there are mechanics that you have to learn, study, and analyze to actually understand what's happening under the engine that the chart isn't telling you, that when the thing turns around massively amplifies the performance of the asset on the reversal. And these concepts that we're talking about are that. Like when you're removing almost 1 billion coins in 2 weeks from the market and injecting billions of PulseChain into the liquidity pools, literally just handing the PulseChain to token holders. That's actually what that means. If the system takes 6 billion PulseChain, buys pTGC, and sends it to a dead address, not only do those coins never hit the market again, but all the APY associated to them now goes to the current holders. And that 6 billion PulseChain that was required to market buy those tokens out of the pools was left in the pools for token holders. And only token holders can access that pulse chain, right? So on a reversal, that liquidity there strengthens the system, makes the slippage less, makes the system, makes the proxy relationship to core tickers that much stronger. And with the X multiplier, you know, if you're sitting on 20, 30, 40 billion pulse chain in a liquidity web and you get your 100X, I mean, that's why we always talk about this system doesn't have ruggable liquidity, unlike most systems where the liquidity is protocol, not protocol owned, and it can be removed as the price goes up, which thins out the LP web, but it also makes it easier for the price to tank. Well, this system, once it goes up, and I was talking to B-Roots last week, and I was like, man, you know, once there's a reversal, and we're not looking at 8 million in the liquidity web, we're looking at 60 million in the liquidity web, 100 million in the liquidity web. It makes it, you know, people, they worry about the impact of the chart of people selling. But guys, I mean, at that point, you can sell whatever you want, and you're just, you literally, you're sitting in an asset that's backed by 60, $100 million of liquidity, which represents more liquidity on chain than anything on any other blockchain, really, in terms of an EVM situation. I'm so Zen. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are super Hulkamania, you know, massively strong, strengthening. It's like the system's working out right now, getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. But you don't see that on the chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's even if that doesn't equal price appreciation, that usually means either someone sold into it or markets retraced down at that time, or a combination or both. But that means as soon as markets go back up to the time when that capital was injected, you're that much higher, or that means you washed out someone who, you know, either took profits or was down on their bag and sold at a loss, but now they can never sell their tokens twice. Once they sold, and the only way they can come back in is by buying back in, right? So you don't always see the growth of the machine, but the nice thing about this, and a lot of times people don't look at that, is there's a lot of tokens out there that have done amazing that just don't have things happening in the background. There is nothing happening in the background. They just did really well with marketing it, and they got on a bunch of exchanges, and they put a lot of liquidity there, which gives it value too. We're just trying to do all those things, right? We're trying to market it well. We're trying to have good product market fit. We're trying to have tons of liquidity, but we're also trying to have good functionality behind the scenes, constantly utilizing the things that we actually know what gives things value and what has given things value for the last 1,000 years to make this asset more valuable long-term and sustainable for our community and for us and our families, right? Banana and Coach, anything you guys want to add before we shut it down?
I'm set.
I'm good. I was gonna give out some information, but I'm gonna wait until next Monday.
Okay.
Something cool. Something really cool. So, great opportunity for marketing in terms of PGC. So, I'll let you guys know next week.
Sounds good.
Yep, that does sound good.
Yeah, right now, marketing is a big time thing. but coach, marketing works its best when it's timed right,
Yep.
Exactly.
you could throw way too much marketing money at and be in the wrong time of the market, and it's not going to do shit,
Yeah. You know me. I like the time thing. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. But definitely, that's a main focus at this point. Is getting geared up for that kind of stuff. 100%. That's very important.
Yeah.
This protocol deserves, at the right time, to be marketed properly.
You got it, man. Absolutely. I
Coach
agree
just said
wholeheartedly.
The right time's next Monday.
What was that?
Coach just said the right time's next Monday.
No, he said he was going to share some ideas or something about some marketing, something.
No, I understand what you were saying, Zan.
I'm just messing.
Yeah.
What did you say? That was one of my kids was talking to me.
No, we're talking about how doing marketing at the right time is right, and then I said you told us that it's going to be next Monday, so you're saying that markets are going to be better next Monday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, teasing people too. So
I was just teasing you. I'm just flirting.
I mean, Coach, it's like right now, brother, it's literally a coin toss. It's literally a coin toss. Bitcoin has to tell us which way we're going.
Yeah.
Literally waiting for that confirmation.
I'm waiting on ETH more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin.
Yeah, but
strong.
ETH ain't going nowhere if Bitcoin doesn't confirm a bullish uptrend. It has to confirm that uptrend. It has to find a higher low, and then start moving up past the all-time highs. If it doesn't confirm a higher low, then we're going to go lower for a while.
True.
Just so you know, the whole adage of, sell in May, go away thing, do your own research, but
It's 50-50, right?
it's 50-50, 1,000%. It's literally 50-50. So when people are just so standing in the affirmative that, sell in May, go away, and it's always that way, bullshit. It's not always that way. That's a lie. And so, do your own research. This is literally a 50-50 split on whether or not that's a reality or not, right? Okay. So we know there's not one KPI that we can look to that determines what causes that or not. It just is what it is. We hope for a bullish uptrend on Bitcoin, though. If not, we'll be going down and sideways for a little bit longer.
And I'll keep on getting more and more gray hairs. So.
Yeah, right. More's going to burn. More's going to hit our wallets.
Mm-hmm.
And let's close down. Land the plane.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming up. Everyone who's listening, thank you. To the community that was chatting in YouTube chat, thank you for chatting in there and asking the questions.
And we thank you too for being here, Zen.
Oh, no problem. All right, guys. See ya.
All right, see you. There you go. Woo! I'm gonna get a fan for my office. I realized, so I can stay cool. I need to be cool because I ain't cool right now. All right, guys. It was fun. There's a lot of good stuff in there, man. You're gonna help me work on a project. I'm working on a project, guys. You'll find out sooner or later. Hopefully sooner, because if sooner, that means I'm done with it. So I got me some good notes. I hope you got some good notes. Let's get and have a good rest of your week, guys. Over and out.